100 years before humanity's extinction, an ugly, poor, worthless loser, Sung Jinwoo, decided to become a hunter to make ends meet, pay for his mother's medical bills, and provide for his sister's education. Despite awakening a superhuman ability, which allows him to become a hunter, he is quite popular as the world's weakest hunter, with his ability not too far from that of a regular human. However, his miserable life changes when he meets a god in the most horrifying way possible. After meeting his doom, he is given an appraisal system, allowing him to live again, level up, and become the most savage hunter of all time. 10 years ago, huge gates from an unknown parallel world appeared all around the planet, releasing several monsters. Humanity had no chance to fight back, as regular weapons couldn't deal any damage against these ferocious monsters. Amidst the rising chaos, some humans awakened superhuman powers and became known as hunters. Hunters are classified based on their otherworldly power, from E rank to S rank. However, now humans have the ability to grow stronger than their current status, and the only way to step up their game is by getting better weapons. Apparently, clearing those gates, called dungeons, allows the hunters to collect dropped items from the monsters they have slain. These magic crystals can be sold for a high profit, as the government utilizes them for several purposes. Somewhere on an unknown island, a group of hunters face off against several giant monster ants. Their leader explains that they must stop the monsters at all costs, and retreating is not an option. The group is quickly overwhelmed by the overgrown insects, and their leader begins to lose consciousness. One of the ants started enjoying his human buffet, snacking on his internal organs. As the leader's life begins to fade away before his eyes, a man rescues him from becoming a juicy meal for the monsters. The leader cannot believe his eyes to see a hunter with unbelievably powerful healing magic. Suddenly, the leader screams as the man is about to be devoured by a group of monsters. Just then, he is saved by another hunter, who casts a shockwave at the monster ants. Following this attack, another hunter activates his beast mode and smacks around the monsters. The first group realizes that they were just useless NPCs all along. Turns out, they are the infamous S-rank hunters, who are known as the top Gs of Hunter Society. Out of nowhere, an even bigger albino monster ant appears before them. The S-rank hunters thought that the monster was the boss of that dungeon and decided to fight it, leaving the wounded under the care of the healer. These powerful warriors initiate the fight and use incredible teamwork to rip off the monster's face and use one of its fangs to absolutely destroy the albino ant monster and send it to the afterlife. However, there is no time to celebrate because the albino ant's army arrives, which proves them wrong because the giant stronger ant they just faced was just one of many. Nonetheless, these S-rank hunters fear nothing, and the mage powers up his lightning, and the Giga Chad goes into rage mode, causing his giant muscles to rip his clothes. Elsewhere, another man, who turns out to be the guildmaster, is glad that the S-rank heroes were able to make it in time. This man is too busy to have a serious ant problem, so he quickly burns them into a crisp and orders the hunters to deal with the albino ant monsters. Years have passed from the day of the ant infestation. Several portals appear from different places. Elsewhere, a young bachelor named Jinwoo arrives at their meeting place to join his party, which is a group of hunters working together to clear a dungeon. Everyone greets him, which is noticed by a poodle-haired hunter named Mr. Park. Mr. Park asks another hunter, named Mr. Kim, if Jinwoo is a strong hunter with extraordinary power, because he seems pretty popular. However, Mr. Kim drops the bomb, telling Mr. Park that it's actually the other way around, because Jinwoo is widely known as the world's weakest hunter of all mankind. He is so weak that he was sent to a hospital while raiding the weakest dungeon that had ever existed. Jinwoo, despite hearing all the trash talk about him, decides to walk like nothing is going on because he knows to himself that they are simply spitting facts. Suddenly, Jinwoo hears Juhi's voice, asking why he's covered in bandages. Jinwoo explains to her that he got hurt during his last raid, mostly because there wasn't a healer in the party. Juhi complains that what he did is so reckless, but Jinwoo admits that it is actually his fault because his strength is poor and cannot handle even the weakest dungeon. As the raid is about to start, Mr. Song, an experienced hunter, promises to lead the party. The moment the party members enter the gate, Jinwoo pulls out his low-quality knife, revealing that it is the only piece of equipment he can afford. Nevertheless, he is still willing to give his best that day, so he enters the dungeon with no hesitation. Once inside, Jinwoo manages to defeat a goblin and get its crystal. Suddenly, a goblin attacks from behind him, and he narrowly manages to block the enemy's attack. He rolls and tries his best to evade the strikes. However, when he tries to retaliate, his shoddy knife breaks, allowing the goblin to impale his body. Fortunately, Mr. Park comes to his rescue and instantly defeats the goblin. On the other hand, Joo-hee immediately heals Jinwoo's deep wound. Not long after, the party manages to defeat the dungeon boss, but Jinwoo is being healed once again, just like the previous dungeon clearing he did. Jinwoo was the only person injured in their party, and Joo-hee couldn't help but wonder why he badly wanted to become a hunter despite being so weak. Jinwoo apologizes because he is such a big liability to be considered by the party. The group is dividing the drops until someone notices another entrance nearby. Everyone is confused, but Mr. Song reveals that sometimes there are double dungeons. In this situation, they should usually report the incident to the Hunters Association. However, that would mean losing all the possible item drops that they can gather. Some hunters want to explore it and some don't, so they decide to vote if they should try the second boss or not. The vote is a draw, with Joo-hee being one of the 6 who said no to it. The decision is then left in the hands of Jinwoo, who is the 13th member of the party. Jinwoo knows that what they are about to do is dangerous, but he starts contemplating his miserable life. Apparently, he needs the money to send his younger sister to college and must also pay for his mother's treatment fees. So, to protect his family, he votes yes to that decision, and the group moves forward to explore the unknown dungeon. Joo-hee complains about Jinwoo's decision, but she tells him that when they come out of the dungeon, he should let him have a taste of his long meat. Sorry, I mean they should enjoy eating meat together. The group then reaches a big door, which confuses everyone because there are no boss rooms with doors. They think this is strange, but since they're all greedy, they decide to step in. The torches all around the room suddenly start to light up, and they see a group of several big statues standing around the room. Jinwoo notices another one sitting in the middle, where there seems to be a throne for the biggest statue. The group starts to mention how they feel like they're being watched. Then they noticed something strange in that dungeon. There were no monsters inside the room. Master Song then notices the floor and what seems to be a magic circle. Not long after, Mr. Kim calls Mr. Song, mentioning there is a statue with something written. Everyone walks near the angel statue and notices the inscription. Mr. Song reads it out loud, mentioning the commandments of the temple. The rules are as follows. Firstly, they must worship the god. Secondly, they must praise the god. Lastly, prove their loyalty to the god, and those who don't obey should die. Joo-hee freaks out and calls Jinwoo, mentioning that the eyes of the giant statue moved and looked at them. Jinwoo tells her that she is just imagining things inside her head. Suddenly, the door closes. Everyone loses their minds, and someone tries to run towards the door to escape. However, when he touches the door, the statue suddenly moves and slices his head off. Everyone starts screaming, and Jinwoo falls into despair, thinking and knowing that the guy who just died was a lot stronger than him. So the odds of him surviving are lower than your chances of finding true love. He doesn't understand why this monster could be in a low-ranked dungeon. Jinwoo looks at the biggest statue, paying attention to every detail until he sees its eyes moving to look at him. He then starts having a flashback about the moments he faced life and death situations ever since he was broke and weak. Jinwoo had to look for loopholes to survive and had to observe everything in detail to get his chance. Upon returning to reality, Jinwoo shouts at them to get down. The huge statue shoots a laser beam with its eyes, killing some hunters in the process. Luckily, Jinwoo manages to save Joo-hee right in time, but her fear overcomes her body and she experiences a panic attack. He then looks around, confused and scared of what's about to happen. and how they ended up in that unfortunate situation. Jinwoo's mind is filled with despair because he knows they cannot escape and that they have no choice but to face their impending doom.